No, that's worse. No,
Sorry,
looking forward to today
yeah,
very much. It's going to be
there.
brilliant.
Can you hear me here?
Hello, Jake. Yes, I can hear you, and we can see the staff as well, which is good.
Can you just keep talking for a second while I back up? So our speakers aren't working, so I just want to see if I can hear
Yeah.
from the room. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course. We'll do a little test, can't we, Jonathan?
Sure, yeah. Hope you can hear me loud and clear, yes.
Yeah, is that all right there, Jake?
It's okay. I'm trying to get ICT to come and help me, but it's no teacups and no speakers working. Anyway, I'll mute our
no.
mic and I'll try and get it sorted before.
Okay, hopefully you can.
Yes. No, that's fantastic, I'll say. I like your slide format as well, Chloe. That's really nice. The Maiden Early Learning Labs. That's really
Thank you. Yeah.
spot
Yeah,
on. That's really good.
We wanted to give it like its own identity, really, so it's people remember it, hopefully.
Yeah, and the focus on learning is exactly what it's all about today. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think. Well, hopefully it will continue to go well. I think it will.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah. Have you done anything like this before with a school, like across different settings at once?
I haven't done 4 schools. I've done 2 schools before, and I remember doing it, and it was in the school hall, and it was in one hall they did it, and the CPD lead set it up for me, and he said, "Right, okay, it's over to Jonathan," and he hadn't put the camera on the audience, so I was speaking to the roof, I think, in the inside, which was interesting. They could see me, but I certainly couldn't see them. So, it worked.
Well, hopefully, yeah, I think we're all okay today, so because we can actually see people. Hello, River, and hello, Chiltern Edge as well. And then we're just waiting for Maiden Early.
Oh, that's much better now. Oh, it's a fantastic way to do that, as you say, rather than trying to practically, get schools together and people to. Oh, that's amazing what you've done. Really good.
Oh, thank you. And are you okay for me to share the slides with people afterwards, Jonathan? Is that?
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
Great,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and you've got my email address, and if there's any sort of follow-up questions or anything, or people, what's the reference for this? Just contact me. Glad to help in any way.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do a thing, Chloe, called Talking Magazine, which is for partially sighted people, and it's recorded, and it's like it goes out as a radio broadcast sort of thing regionally here in Yorkshire. And we did the sound check. I've done about 5 of them now, and we did the sound check. And each time we do the sound check, the guy says, "That sounds okay, but can I just remind you, talk a bit slower?" And I go, "Okay."
Yeah, I always do that as well.
Try to keep it slow.
I feel like it's when you're talking about things you're interested in, that's when I always speed up a lot more, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's passionate about it, certainly.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh, Emma and Laura, can we don't need to be able to hear you, so that's fine, but can you hear us at River and Chiltern Edge? Don't worry about the camera, Emma, that's fine, no problem. Okay, phew, that's good. River can hear us. And Chiltern Edge, can you hear us? Jake, can you see the slide, Jake? I just want to double check. Okay, phew, that's good.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to make sure about. So we'll just give our other school a couple of minutes to join, and then we'll start at 1:45.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, that's great, Laura. Thank you.
Not looking very promising.
I think it's working. That's working now. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Is our sound coming through those speakers?
No, I think it's coming through your
Oh,
hearing.
is it going to be able to hear? Is there any way to make it come through those?
So it's all connected through. It should be coming through the main.
Why couldn't you?
Just going to give Maiden Early just 30 seconds. Hopefully
Sure.
they'll
Yeah.
join.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's just trying to make my sound work.
That's all right, no problem.
I can hear you, but they won't be able to at the moment.
Ah.
Oh, that's great, Emma. Thank you so much for sorting that out. Jake, are you all right if we make a start now? Can people hear? Okay. Have you got sound at MER now? Be okay. Okay, right. I think we'll make a start. Is that all right, Sam? Can you hear me okay? Okay, right. I think we will make a start now. So thank you very much, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to our second Learning Lab session, Challenge Through Questioning. I'm delighted today to be joined by colleagues from across our 4 secondary schools. We've got Maiden Early in Reading, River Academy, Maiden Early Chiltern Edge, and also Maiden Early School. We're really lucky today to be working with a fantastic expert facilitator, Jonathan Doherty, who is an educational consultant. He spent decades researching and working with practitioners in the areas of challenge and questioning. So he really is the perfect person to be delivering our session today. I know that challenge is an area that staff at all levels of our organisation consistently say that they would like to bring more of to the classroom. And what better way to do that than through questioning, something that we're working on already. Before I pass over to Jonathan, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to people that have been trialling the techniques from Learning Lab 1, engagement through questioning in their classrooms. I've been doing learning walks with the CPD leads, and it's been fantastic to see those techniques of tap, tap, show, the structured think, pair, share, and then the cold / quite warm cold calling going on within the classrooms. We've seen so many examples of this across our schools. I just wanted to highlight a couple of people in particular who've really stood out from each of the secondaries. So at Maiden Early, Hannah really demonstrated like a perfect way of using mini whiteboards to engage all students and check for understanding, which was fantastic to see. Over at River, Jess provided such a clear and detailed structure for Think, Pair, Share that really supported every single student in the room to speak in full sentences, which was great to see. And then at Maiden Early Reading, Andrew gave students so much time before cold calling them that everyone that he asked was really prepared, which is exactly what we want. And then over at Chiltern Edge, Adonis had so many students were involved in this live modelling because he was cold calling all of them, and it made something that could have just been him doing it, actually involving like 5, 6, 7 members of the class at once. So it made it highly engaging. So thank you so much for that. I just want to say, please keep embedding those techniques from Learning Lab 1 into your lessons as we move forward. All of the techniques from Learning Labs 1, 2 and 3 are designed to be used in conjunction with each other, and you can layer them on top of each other to keep developing your question and practice. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Jonathan Doherty, who is going to give you a bit of an overview of the research behind challenge through questioning. He's also got 3 fantastic techniques to share with you, and he will be giving you a chance as well to discuss and or practice each of them. So I'm going to hand over to you there, Jonathan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, one and all, and good afternoon. I'm delighted to be with you today. I hope your weather is a little bit better than what I'm looking at outside in North Yorkshire, but there we are. I'm delighted to be working with Chloe again. We've worked in the past together. It's always a delight. Someone with tremendous knowledge and tremendous passion and expertise as well, may I say, in coordinating such a fantastic enterprise as today. And it's lovely for me to hear the work that's gone on already by way of the series of labs. So hopefully today we can take that on a little bit further as well. I have a couple of techniques that I hope you'll like and be able to practice today. But to start with, I just want to give you a little bit of context and make a couple of points to sort of set the scene, if you like, by way of where questioning fits in. So the first point is that questions matter more than answers, and I thoroughly actually believe that. Good questioning is at the very heart of great teaching. In every great classroom, learning starts with a question, but these aren't any random ad hoc questions. It's thoughtfully framed, carefully delivered with intention that really make the difference. An effective questioning puts the learner at the heart of learning, which is something we've been told millions of times in the past. But by doing this, by utilizing the power of effective questioning, regardless of age, regardless of subject, what you're actually able to do, I believe, is put your students in a mindset to become deeper thinkers. You're putting them by way of helping them to learn a skill set of collaboration and problem solving as well. For the teachers, it's about engagement, higher engagement. It's about understanding where pupils are, responding to needs, and passing over that ownership of learning to your students as well. So with that in mind, I guess the starting point, or if you like, a second starting point, is creating or maintaining the classroom climate that supports that. So the right classroom climate is absolutely essential. And with that in mind, it's about enabling your students to grow and thrive. And within that, it's about enabling them to feel safe about themselves in your classrooms and to feel valued as well. And actually a really important point I would say to you as well, as you already know, I'm absolutely sure, is to take risks. And it doesn't matter in actual fact if the question is not answered in the right way. It gives you an insight into someone's mind and helping you then to provide the challenge accordingly from that. So the classroom climate is absolutely essential. So today I'm going to work with you by way of a couple of longer techniques that we'll go through and give you a chance to practice those. I'm going to do a little bit of modeling to start off with, so you get an idea of the technique, and then you can have a go at that in your subject groups, in your school groups as well. But I just want to give you, I don't want to sort of overload you with content, but I've got a couple of very easy, nice little giveaway ones just to start. It's like the hors d'oeuvre for this afternoon, if you like. And you probably know these, but I just want to give you those because they work really well in classrooms that I've been involved with. The first one is wait time. So flick out your question and just wait. Don't rush into getting the answer. Don't rush into getting the first person with the hand up. Don't rush into answering the question. Don't rush into anything. Just wait. And what seems like minutes and minutes is only literally a few seconds, but it really begins to set the scene and raise those expectations as well for not just answering randomly or quickly. It's about really getting students to think about their answer in advance. The second one keeps them on the toes is the no hands up one. So in other words, you don't wait for hands to go up. You may well have the policy in your school at the moment of that, but you can begin to select who you want to answer the question, and that puts you very much in the driving seat. I mentioned before about the deepening of learning, and the last little technique I want to just share with you by the way of this first course, if you like, or this hors d'oeuvre, is to develop that idea of students as critical thinkers, going beyond the obvious, probing deeper, getting them to really think about their answers. And as I say, these three techniques I hope will do that in greater depth. But the easy one for that is just a simple response or two responses. Are you sure? And the second was, how do you know? And that immediately throws back into, oh my gosh, where's the evidence I've got for that? So interspersed with everything I'm going to talk about today is this idea of critical thinking, and where do we get the evidence from? How do we actually know that? Do I know that? Where have I got that source from as well? So I'll start, if I may. And you'll see the previous slide there was just really about the importance of learning classrooms, the importance of actually getting research into your classroom and what it actually says. The work of John Hattie I would thoroughly recommend to, if you don't know that one. He says feedback and questioning are two of the most potent learning mechanisms there are, and I would encourage you to think about that in your classroom. And just by way of a final sentence or two by way of introduction as well, it is not, I really genuinely believe it's not about getting through content, it's about setting those important milestones for students to think deeply and think about their answers. So let's get on with question or technique number one. Okay, so we've called this, and Chloe and I have sort of termed this one ourselves, interdisciplinary questions. So I just ask you to read what's on the screen there. So this is something that pulls together an answer. Okay, we're looking at three important aspects of this: creativity, innovation, yes. Problem solving, in other words, thinking outside the box, and by doing that we move away, and I want you to move away today, if you would, from the content knowledge within your specific area. So in other words, I want you to think about something that's a little bit more broader than the subject area. So you're actually drawing upon another subject area, another discipline to think about your answers as well. Now I also call this sort of interdisciplinary questioning a little bit on progression of ladders. So I want you to think about this of a ladder going up. On the bottom rung, you have the recall questions. Okay, they have a place, but not a big place. Okay, we're looking at the higher echelons of higher order thinking and higher order questioning. So we're going to look at three. Analysis is the first one. So analysis is about really pulling apart some subject knowledge, breaking down concepts. Second one is about evaluation, which is about judging, making an informed judgment or critique. And the third one is about creating new knowledge as well. So this technique you see in a second will hopefully do each of those. So example one and example two on your screen. So a question, and you'll be doing this literally later on with your own subject area, but for today let's look at something that's a bit more generic. So question and example one: should AI be allowed to make decisions in criminal justice? If you think about that from your subject area, you would have certain answers to that one. But if you think a little bit more broadly into that one, what would it look like if you pulled in something from IT, computing, something from sociology or ethics? Would that change your answer? How would your answer fit with those other subject areas as well? In example two, statistics. Okay, does it help us understand the impact of the Holocaust? What's that got to do with history? Well, let's just think of that for a second as well. So you'll see from this one that they don't rely on your students knowing a lot of content. So this first technique is very much about, I don't need to have this, but what I do need to do is apply my thinking a little bit more broadly. Okay, so again, you'll see in the screen there, thinking outside the box and cultivating an approach to challenging questions. So the questions you would set, and I would just urge you for each of the techniques to consider that the questions you set have challenge. You know, these are not easy closed questions. These are questions that we want to make those students think really, really deeply about that one. So let's look at that in more depth for your practice time now as well. Okay. And again, this could be a starter, it could be at the end of a session, it could even be, you know, a really, really important debate. And you can play around with these three techniques and change them how you wish, intersperse them as to where you feel most comfortable with as well. And you know, you can do it to start off with, just have a go as a starter, maybe at the end of a really good session, a couple of minutes as a plenary is okay as well. Or, you know, have a full or half a lesson or something, a debate devoted to this one. So the task for you guys at the moment today for this first one is to come up with, one would do, but two is good, interdisciplinary questions which combine approaches from your subject and at least one other subject area. Okay, so let's just unpack that a little bit more as well. So think of a question, a tough question, inside your subject, but you would want to bring in another subject and identify what that is, whether it's maths or geography or whatever. Okay. And think about that just for a second. And then the second part of that is, okay, so that's my question. What would I need to do to assist, to meet those needs? Because we're asking students to go outside their subject for this particular one as well. What scaffolding techniques? Would there be any sort of support from somebody else or something else as well? How would I make it more accessible? What would it do with, areas that are not going to be as easy for some people to answer as well. So we'll probably give you, what do you think for this, Chloe, about a few minutes?
Yeah, about 3 minutes, I think.
3 or
So
4 minutes for that
yeah,
one.
I think everyone should be sitting in their department groups anyway. So there's hopefully should
Yeah.
be a good discussion to have. Yeah, we'll give you about 3 minutes and then we'll move on to the next technique.
Yeah, we'll keep that on the screen so you can see what you're supposed to do as well. So have a go, folks. Okay. So you may wish to even start with a question you've used before, something within your own subject area that you're familiar with or you use quite regularly. But again, if you start from that, then let's open it up a little bit to bring in another one or two areas just to support that.
Yeah,
So
it's
by
all about
doing
a different angle, isn't it? A different angle to the,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, a different angle, and it gets people outside the box. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
geography. I'm thinking about maths in this lesson. It isn't. It's broader than that as well. And that synthesis is a really, really good skill as well. I talk about ladders of progression. This is one of the top rungs on that ladder, if you like, really, because what we're asking students to do then is to move outside their particular zone, if you like, to bring in other subject domains and discipline knowledge as well. Okay. So hopefully now by this stage you'll have an idea of a good question you'd want to ask, and then begin to then think about, okay, so if I ask this particular question, how am I going to make it work? What will I need to do to support? And think about maybe the range of your students, think of a particular year group maybe in that respect, and possibly even think about a particular year group for your question as well. But think about your students that you know well. What will you need to do to support the higher end, the lower end, in respect of their learning? So everybody is included in this, and everybody is challenged at a particular level.
I think if we just give them 1 more minute, Jonathan, and then we'll
Sure.
move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, hopefully there's been some really good kind of starting point discussions there. Obviously we've got quite a short session today, so we're sort of sowing seeds that hopefully you can pick up in like future department meetings. So if we move on now to technique 2.
Right, thank you, Chloe. Yeah. So just to finish off in technique 1 there as well, again, keep it flexible, work within your teams to develop those sort of questions as well. Think about the response. In fact, it would be really interesting to see what the response is from your students when you try this out yourselves. So that will be something for the future as well. All right, technique 2 is different. Technique 2 is hinge point. So technique 2 is about planned questions in advance of the session. Okay, so this is something you would do at the planning stage when you're sitting down, working out your lesson plan for your particular subject. And you have a particular goal or specific goal in mind. These questions are very often closed questions. So there is a place for closed questions. Sometimes in the literature and sometimes in training, we sort of, are a bit disparaging about closed questions, but they have a place. And this is a place for one, because in this respect, we're looking to assess knowledge or understanding. So therefore, the closed question is the perfect one for that to happen. So with your question could take several forms, but a couple of things to think about this one in advance. You're planning maybe 2 or 3 of those. So say within a 60-minute lesson, you might have 2, 3 hinge questions at different points. And what you're doing is ascertaining in advance, this is the time I'm going to ask this question. So these are questions not to individuals, these are to the whole class. So it's a bit of formative assessment there as well. So you're getting response from the whole class and beginning to pick up where you are, where they are, sorry, in that respect. So you can do it as a quiz, you can do it as multiple choice is a good way of doing that, but they have to be quick and snappy. This isn't something that lasts more than a couple of minutes, to be quite honest, if that. It's something that's inserted in there, quick diagnostic point onto the rest of the lesson. Okay, so with the hinge point, here's an example to go. So which of these, for chemistry, and I'm not a chemist, believe me, or STEM person, which of these are a molecule? Okay. So in the first one, you give definite answers. There's only one right answer in this. So if you're setting these up, you will have ascertained which is the answer you will want, and the only right answer. So you'll see from SALT, yeah, that's an area sometimes where confusion could be. Number B, okay, multiple choice answers. Yeah, it's a good one to have as well. The iron oxide, C and D. The last one, number E, says there's a good hinge point question, as it wouldn't be as easy to guess the 2 correct responses and different combinations. So you have maybe 3, 4, 5 answers, but only one in this is right. So what you would do in advance of that is take your lesson plan, and sometimes, I've done this retrospectively, you go back and insert your hinge questions into the plan itself, but at certain points after something, you're going to be asking this question, or these 3 or 4 questions in that respect. You can do it nicely with the IT and the whiteboard, etc. That's a nice way of doing that as well. But you're involving everybody, and it's just a formative assessment technique, really, that is a bit more planned in advance and a bit more biting, I think, than something that just responds to something. You're actually thinking about your lesson, you're thinking about the development of the knowledge that you're teaching, you're thinking about the possible understandings and therefore the possible misunderstandings as well, and beginning to say, right, let's just pause there, bang, and have a go at that one. Okay, so again, this is your question, so I'm not asking you to do this at this particular stage, but I'd like you to have a few minutes discussion. We've got a little bit of time, so a few minutes discussion on this one. So firstly, how do you use this, okay, within your subject? It could well be quite similar, I think, in that respect. But I want you to think about the second one. Are there particular topics within your subject that this would really work well with? And consequently, no, I wouldn't do it with this one at all. But think about the pluses. What's a good area? What are the areas? What are the themes, the topic areas that maybe the students, children will struggle with, and therefore, which of these would be good to put in at this point? Think about how it might work across, from year 7 upwards as well. Think about your own particular year groups. Maybe you've used something like this before in advance or in the past. Think about how this might work with some of your students. And again, sometimes you wouldn't use this at all. So have a go. It'll be 3 or 4 minutes again on this one, just within your groups, have a discussion. How would you use this technique? Okay.
Yeah, you might want to think as well about, obviously this links really nicely to what we looked at in the previous session about things like tap show, use of mini whiteboards. So maybe that can be part of those conversations as well.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Chloe, with regard to the different ways in which you could use those. You know, what you don't want doing in any of these techniques is to flog it to death with one approach all the time. You know, mix it up, choose the whiteboards, a little quiz, whatever is a nice way of making it varied for yourselves as teachers as well as the students at the class, I think. Love to hear the discussions that are going on about its about its use and problems, etc. in this one. It's a nice little technique.
Should we give them just another minute, Jonathan, and
Yeah,
then move on to the last one?
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect. Okay, are we ready to move on, Jonathan?
Sure, that's good. Yes, well, hopefully you guys have had a good discussion on that one and got some nice ideas. Key point in this one, of course, is it's in advance. That's the key.
Yeah, definitely.
Deciding upon this, you know, where you'll interrupt the flow for this one. So just a final word or two just on the hinge questions. What happens afterwards? Recap the main points is one possibility. Second one, move on to new content. Thirdly, even reteach that part of the question or the lesson. So you're in charge of that, and you have an understanding where the difficulties are, what's gone well, and therefore that really begins to shape your lesson from a learner's point of view as well. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, the third one. Right, we're going back in time for this one to Socrates himself, Socratic questioning. This is very rational, very logical, sequence, very step-by-step approach, but it really allows you one thing which the other two haven't had, and that's the ability to go deeper and deeper and deeper. This is like you have a big spade and you're just digging and digging and probing and digging, etc. And now this you'll have to work out the best way that works for you in that respect. Now you should have a handout there with you folks, and in that handout you'll see 6 areas, and with grandiose names like conceptual clarification and so forth. So the idea behind Socratic question is you work through in the sequence, but I would just caution you there, folks, as well. Work through it, but at the same time, you don't have to answer every single question or utilize every single question. In fact, that would be horrendous. You'd just be, thinking an early grave, I think, if you did that one. But the idea is to work through the different genre, different domains of those, and just choose from maybe one or two or three, maybe from each of those, one from one, two from another, for example, as well, but work through all 6 in turn. So again, you'll see this is a longer term. This is a heavier technique that takes a little bit of time for that one. So you've got to do a few things as well, but you've got the questions on your sheet. And again, those questions are generic questions. They're not subject orientated at all, which is great. So by stepping back a little bit from the subject, by stepping back a little bit from the content, you're now setting forth your question. And again, start with a question that's a big question. I know a lot of schools are now operating as such a thing as the big question for the term or for the week or so forth on that one, but something that's big enough to get your teeth into, or get those students' teeth into in that respect. So you've got your question. Okay, not a closed question, not something small, not something that's a recall question, but something that really opens it up in that respect. Okay, so what you then need to do is you start by choosing the first technique, which is conceptual clarification, and that's really what it is, clarifying. Okay, so your student will provide an answer, and you just keep digging and digging and digging in that respect. But I want you to just pause there a little bit and think about what the answer might be. So you've got to be quite skilled here, and that will probably develop over time as well, that your follow-up question has to be related to what the student gives you back. So you've got to listen to the answer as well. It isn't just to go through the questions. So depending on what's been said, you then move on to another question. It could be, in fact, that you actually think, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm happy with the answer given by way of the clarification. So I'm going to move on to number 2, which is probing assumptions. Again, move on to that for a couple of questions. And you'll see from your sheet that probing assumptions is exactly that. What do you mean by that? What would happen if? Is that always the case? So again, these are quite big, open-ended questions. Number 3, excuse me, is the rationale, the reasoning as well. So it's back to how do you know this? And that's the one I used earlier on at the beginning of today's session. And that's a really, really powerful question. So where did you get your answers from? How do you know that? Where's the evidence? How can you say that's true? Questioning viewpoints, we've done a little bit of that in the last one by way of the different viewpoints, perspectives into that, different angles onto that, mixing and matching, strengths and weaknesses, etc. Number 5, probing implication and consequences. So what would this mean? Why? What would happen if? And the last one is going back to questioning the actual question itself. So because it's live, look, Chloe's getting worried there with this one. We haven't rehearsed this, folks, so it could go horribly wrong. But live TV is the best. So we're gonna try and model this. We haven't rehearsed this at all, so it could go horrendously. So the question is, I'm going to give Chloe a question. She'll reply, and I'm going to try and come up with some sort of clever one of the questions from this, and we'll go through a few. What I'm going to do is just pick from all 6 so you get a flavour of her answers for that one, and then we'll give you guys a chance to have a go at that one. And you don't have to do all 6 today. Just work through at your own pace for that one. So the question, drum roll, the question is, Chloe, is the current school curriculum, Key Stage 3 and 4, overcrowded? What do you think?
I would say it is, Jonathan. Yeah, I think it's very challenging to complete all of the content that we need to, particularly at GCSE and A level.
Why do you say that then?
I would say that because when we're teaching in the lesson, sometimes we really have to prioritize getting through the content rather than actually being able to explore it in greater depth. That's something I've noticed over the past few years in particular.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to go on to domain number 2 for this one, the probing assumptions, because Chloe's provided a really, really good answer. I could dig a bit further, but she actually answered the question, which is really good. So let's go a bit further then. Let's go into probing assumptions. Okay. Thank you, Chloe, for your answer. What would happen if schools had control of their own curriculum? Would that work?
I think that's a very interesting question. I think there could be a lack of consistency if that was the case. However, I think people on the ground in schools do know best about what is actually possible to get through in the amount of time that we do have. So I think potentially it could have some real benefits.
Okay, that's absolutely true. I'm absolutely sure on that one. Would there be evidence for that? And would you believe that evidence or would you doubt that evidence? How do you know that's the case?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't actually have any direct evidence from the present day about this, but I would maybe look back at evidence from the past where there wasn't such like a strong centralized curriculum across the country, and maybe have a look at how that went in the past, like back in like the 70s and early 80s as well, perhaps.
Super. That's a very good answer as well. And just like for the next one, the viewpoint, could you just give me a strength and a weakness of the current situation? A strength of the curriculum and a weakness.
Yeah, I think a strength is that it's certainly rigorous by virtue of the fact that there is so much content. Like we're asking students to master a large body of knowledge. However, a weakness would be that, as I mentioned previously, that actually it can mean that we don't go into depth on everything. It can sometimes feel more that we're prioritizing breadth.
Super. Very, very good. Okay. Penultimate question is, what do you think is the best model?
Oh, wow. I think the best model would be one that like fits the individual context of schools, but retains a kind of like cohesive set of values, maybe that we agree on, maybe as like a trust, for example, that we want. So a bit of like independence, but also a bit of consistency there in a centralized way.
Very good. That's a really good answer. And just to finish off, why was that question important, or do you think that question was important?
I do. I do think it's important. I think it gets to the heart of like what we do as teachers, because like we're all very passionate about our curriculums, and I think that these are questions that we've all thought about, and they also open up other questions about workload and different pressures on students and like skills that we want students to develop alongside mastering the curriculum content. So I think it was a very good question and an important one, Jonathan.
And a brilliant live on air answer.
Thank you.
Well, you've got the job.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Fantastic. Okay, folks. So that's given you a live, you've heard it here live, example of what it is to work through those. So again, now it's your turn to have a go at this one.
Yeah.
So back to your subject area, think of a big question, something you want to ask. It doesn't have to be a long question. It certainly doesn't need to be 2 or 3 linked questions. Just make it condensed, one big question.
Yeah, we'll just give you a couple of minutes, won't we, just to have a quick practice.
See how you got on with that and work with a partner on that one, and go as far as you can. You might choose just to work on the first couple, you might flick across questions 1 to 6 and then swap over. It's up to you, but you're really looking for maybe 2 things here. You're looking for, in asking the questions, you're digging, you're looking for probing for more content. You want more. You're going to challenge that person. You want to get some decent answers. You want some depth behind the answers on that one. And as a learner providing the answers to that, you're looking to say, okay, well, I actually know something about this. I can give you some answers with this one. I'm really going to think deeply about this. I'm going to get my critical thinking hat on, and I'm going to give you a good answer here. So have a go and see how you go. It's you should enjoy this one. It's a challenge, I think. Probably give you, what's that, 5 minutes, maybe some.
Yeah, maybe 3.
3. Okay, 3 minutes. Yeah, fine. Yeah. Yeah, this could be a long one. And again, I stress the flexibility, folks, while you're just asking each other questions there on that one, as to how you would utilize, well, all 3, but certainly how would you use these Socratic questions within your department, within your subject, how you might choose to do it. Maybe you might want to split it up depending on certain themes that present themselves on that one, different year groups maybe as well, and as an individual teacher, how you're going to work with the 6 set of questions as well, whether you focus on the first couple, but the 6 offer a complete package, I think, in that respect. The 6 offer slightly different angles into it, so don't get hung up on the first one and move on to something else. Work slowly, be confident in working slowly through these sort of questions as well. There's a sequencing, there's a systematic approach needed for this one as well, but do build upon the answers. And again, I know over time that the students' answers, pardon me, student answers will become better. So they won't give you, as you know, maybe if they're used to giving you one-word answers, that will develop in time, because you're probing for more answers, more depth as well. You're really pushing them to think, and at the same time, they are also developing their skills of articulation. So they're beginning to think about their answers as well. And it's not a collaboration this time. This is about what I think in my mind as well, what I bring to the table. So again, you know, you're in the spotlight for this. So there's no escaping for this one. Equally, you know, with respect to number one, compose a big question. If that's something maybe you haven't done before, again, you might want to consider that as a possible. It's an incredibly powerful way of starting a lesson. And again, it can be a nice starter. It can be something that's stays within a lesson. It could be for a week, it could be a half term even, maybe in that respect. So the big question can be something that really anchors that set of knowledge within that theme or that body of work or that unit of work into that. And keep coming back to the big questions, and even the very terminology big question is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get those students to think big. Not give one-word answers, not think about giving the right answer, but just thinking about really beginning to articulate a well-formed response to a deep question.
Perfect. I think, Jonathan, if you want to move on and do the takeaways now, and then that will leave just about 4 minutes for the evaluation at the end.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you for that. You can breathe a sigh of relief now. We've done all the hard work, I think, in that one. I was just looking at ways of finishing off today as well. And again, it's only sort of sowing the seeds of questioning as a technique. I've mentioned all these before, but the first one is deepening learning. Probing deeper. The first technique was about making connections to other bodies of knowledge as well, not just within the subject. Good questions, and I've said there, avoid any questions, because that's something that's too generic. You're going to get them work in the lesson. So, example, tell me one thing you understand better at the end of today's lesson than before. When I was first starting teaching, an advisor said to me, if you can identify one thing that they knew at the end of the lesson they didn't know at the beginning, you've done a good job. So, but you're asking them that question. This is your sort of post-plenary. Okay, as they file that, tell me one thing you've learned today. Secondly, how does today's lesson connect with something you've learned elsewhere? Nice little one there as well. And look at number 3. What do you still feel you want to know? So pushing it forward to the future. So the sort of things that really wrap around the questioning. So you can use them as plenaries. You've got your content in the middle. You've got your content-specific questions. You've got your questions that move across into different domains as well. You've utilized a number of short and long techniques to do that happen. Don't rush it. That's the final thing. Don't rush into providing the answer, and don't be accepting of weak answers like I don't know, or something that's just a one-word answer. Work with those students to develop them and develop that depth as well. And the very best of luck. And it's been a pleasure working with you. I would love to know what your discussions were all about, but that's for another time. But I hope you've enjoyed today, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you. And thanks for giving up your time for today. So it's just the valuation, is that right?
Yeah,
follow-up
great.
actions, etc.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Hopefully you'll agree that you've got 3 fantastic questioning techniques to use there, and I think what comes through is how they can be kind of layered on top of each other. Like you could have the interdisciplinary question that you then use Socratic questioning to like really delve into that, and hopefully you can see how this links to like the previous learning lab as well. We are really looking forward to seeing some great practice, and I think again, what we're going to do like we did last time is actually ask you to kind of have a bit of a pledge to try out one or more of the strategies from today's session in your lessons. Also in your next department meeting, this is a great opportunity to share some best practice and maybe come back to all these slides will be shared. So come back to the slides and think, okay, how could we actually build in some interdisciplinary questions in this particular year 7 like topic, for example, or this particular year 12 topic. And then as before, myself and the CPD lead at each of the schools will be doing a learning walk at some point over the next 2 half terms. And we're going to be looking at not only the engagement for questioning that we had previously, but also how that's being linked into the challenge for questioning. Just before moving on to the evaluation at the end, just in case anyone wants to explore this further, we've got a really nice group of people that attended the previous evidence exchange. We've got another evidence exchange coming up on Tuesday, the 3rd of March, which is all about this topic, but in a deeper sense. So deepening challenge through questioning, how can we kind of really do that? We'll be looking at some research papers and so on. So if you'd like to sign up, there is a QR code there, but also it is in the CPD brochure. And then last but not least, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you for, again, like as Jonathan said, your time and for your kind of effort in engaging with this afternoon. Thank you so much to the CPD leads as well for running this on the ground. As you know very well, I couldn't do it without you. And then just finally, if you wouldn't mind completing this evaluation form, it will act as a record of your attendance to today's session and will also give you opportunity to record your key takeaways from today's learning lab. So thank you very much, everybody. I look forward to seeing your feedback and have a fantastic evening. And thank you again, Jonathan.
My pleasure. Thank you, Chloe. Thanks everybody else.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good luck.
I'll leave it up on the screen, and then thank you very much, Laura. That's fantastic. If people can't scan the QR code for whatever reason, I will make sure this is sent out afterwards as well as a link. Okay. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Chiltern Edge. And CPD leads, feel free to leave the call whenever you think everyone's got the QR code. Have a great evening, and thank you again.